What's going on, guys? Dan Watson, learningcameras.com. Sony A6500 here. I wanted to kind of give you the great things about this camera and also some of the negative things about this camera and what Sony really needs to focus on in the next coming year when producing an upgrade for this camera. And these are some of the things that Sony could apply to some of their other cameras too. Definitely check out the full review for this. There's a lot more information in there, a lot of samples, low light testing, things like that. But this is kind of a quick look at some of those features. Now, the best part of the A6500 has to be the quality. Simply, this is probably the best APS-C camera quality-wise on the market, definitely among them. And for the price and mobility of this camera, you simply cannot beat it. And the A6300 has the exact same quality, so you can see that with that camera as well. The other thing is going to be the speed. You're shooting 11 frames per second on this. It's absolutely phenomenal. On this camera, you have a buffer of over 200 images on the raw shooting at 200 images at 11 frames per second. That's unbeatable by cameras on the market today, including cameras like the 7D Mark II that are great sports shooters. So this has great speed on this. We also have awesome video. So you're shooting 4K at up to 30 frames per second or 1080p at up to 120 frames per second. And basically every movie option that you could possibly want, from log shooting to gamma and focus peaking and all that kind of stuff is thrown in here. We also have mic inputs, and so overall they went really far out with that. And I mean, it's a really lightweight, portable camera. And so if you're looking for any of those features, this is one of the best cameras on the market today. Something new for this camera is going to be that 5-axis image stabilization system, not available on the A6300. Still a little bit unique to cameras. And so this is a new feature on here, which enables it to shoot with some amazing prime lenses that don't otherwise have stabilization, and you can add it into the body. This will also work in combination with lenses that do have stabilization to give you kind of the best of both worlds. But the biggest draw for that feature is going to be using those lenses that do not have image stabilization built in, like the awesome Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8. Great lens for this. You need an adapter, but it will work, and you will get image stabilization on that. So that's kind of the best of this camera, but it's not perfect. There are some things that Sony needs to focus on in the future, and here are some of those things. The big thing for me is going to be lenses. Now, Sony has really upped the amount of lenses that they have for their lines, their E-mount line specifically, but we are still missing a lot for the APS-C line, and one of them would be at, like, say, an 85mm f1.8. The only options right now are going to be $1,200 and up and made for full frame, so they're very heavy. The big thing for me is that this is a camera that focuses on being small, light, portable, and without those APS-C lenses, we're dealing with full frame lenses that are extremely large. Dismiss the entire purpose of having a small camera. The other one for me is going to be an f2.8 zoom, something like a 16 to 50mm f2.8, specifically again for APS-C cameras, the E-mount, and that is because the only 24 to 70 f2.8 that we have available is well over $2,000. It's huge, it's heavy, it's a G Master, and it's just not ideal for this camera. So we need something that works a lot better and fits that purpose, but still gives us some good quality glass with an f2.8. And even for their f4 lenses, I mean, the Zeiss 16 to 70mm is a great lens. It's just very expensive, almost $1,000 for that thing. So I really want Sony to come out with some options. Now, the next one is going to be ergonomics. One of the biggest things for me is going to be a front dial. I need a front dial. This is a camera that has a lot of settings. It is designed to be shot manually. You need a front dial on this, especially because we don't even have a touchscreen that controls these settings. The touchscreen is going to be for touch autofocus only, so we really need something to control this camera a little bit better. Now, onto that touchscreen, man, this thing lags like crazy, so I hope that Sony can not only fix the lag on this thing, but also design an interface that's really made for the touchscreen and allow us to access a lot of those settings. And if you're shooting 4K video, the brightness to this thing goes down to almost nothing. You can't even see it in daylight. Overheating, it's still there for me, for some people. This is an issue that Sony has dealt with in the past. They need to just eliminate it. I don't want to keep saying it anymore. However, I keep having cameras that do overheat with continuous use recording, especially in hot climates or in direct sunlight. They put these really tiny batteries in these things with a very powerful camera system. Sony needs to just come out with a new battery that can give us a little bit better. You can shoot for about an hour with video on this, a couple hundred photos, that's it on the battery life, and it just needs to be improved. It is so much better than virtually every other mirrorless camera, even some with smaller sensors and smaller bodies. So Sony, let's get this thing out of the way. Now, those are my main concerns on this thing. Everything else is great. I mean, there are little things that I wouldn't mind seeing, like a headphone jack, but honestly, If Sony wants to withhold those items for a higher end one, I completely understand them doing that. This is kind of their more consumer range camera, so I don't expect every feature to be on there. However, those features I mentioned before, those will put it in line with other cameras of this price range and even below, and I really think that those are things to add to it. So definitely check out the full review for all of those things, but these are some quick things that I love and hate about the camera, and thanks for watching, and stay tuned for a lot more.